Patrick Jane has done it again. At the CBI office, the team watches with equal parts annoyance and admiration as Patrick turns an ordinary moment into a full magic act. Van Pelt has hidden the SUV keys, challenging Jane's famous mental sharpness. But with a triumphant grin, and to everyone's surprise, Patrick pulls them from their hiding spot as if he had X-ray vision. "Who wants shotgun?" he jokes as the team heads out toward their next destination, the coast of Santa Marta. When they arrive at the beach, the mood changes completely. The salty air mixes with the scent of flowers and melted candle wax. A group of young people has gathered to honor their friend, Christine Tanner. They've built a small memorial covered in photos, candles, stuffed animals, and flowers, which they now throw into the ocean as a final goodbye. As Cho, Rigsby, and Jane walk along the sand, the agents still can't stop talking about the key trick. Just then, two of the teenagers, Hope and Win, nervously approach them to ask if the rumors are true. Did someone really kill Christine? Jane, with his usual blunt honesty, confirms the tragedy. It was murder. During the questioning, the teens insist that Christine was loved by everyone. But the first crack in that perfect image appears when Hope mentions that Christine had been seeing Danny Kurdick. At the sound of his name, Win looks visibly shaken, though he quickly insists Danny would never hurt her. While Hope writes down her contact information, Jane fixes his eyes on Win and asks one of his strange, seemingly unrelated questions. Rigsby and Cho stay quiet, but as soon as the teenagers leave, Rigsby can't help himself. What did that question even mean, Jane? Cho sarcastically adds that maybe they're looking for someone who hates orange rabbits. Jane doesn't seem offended at all. With a mysterious smile, he simply nods. He says the beach is beautiful, removes his jacket, and to his partner's disbelief, lies down in the sand to enjoy the sun. Used to his eccentric behavior, Cho and Rigsby decide to leave him there and head back to the station. While Jane stays behind at the beach, Inspector Teresa Lisbon and Van Pelt visit the Tanner residence. They're greeted by Jack Tanner, a man carrying the full weight of devastation on his shoulders. The house is modest and messy. In the living room, Christine's younger siblings try to escape reality in their own ways. Mikey loses himself in his Game Boy, while Alyssa hides inside a book. Jack apologizes for the condition of the house, admitting that Christine was the one holding everything together. Lisbon notices the empty liquor bottles and used glasses scattered across the table and insists on speaking privately. Once the children leave the room, the father's negligence becomes painfully clear. He waited 3 days before reporting his daughter missing, simply because she was independent and a good girl. Tanner reveals that tragedy has haunted the family for years. His wife was killed by a drunk driver 5 years earlier, and ever since then, Christine had been forced to take on the role of mother. When questioned about the girl's past, Jack brushes off a previous arrest for marijuana possession, claiming she had changed after falling in with the surfer crowd. Wealthy kids from good families whom he believed were a better influence. As they leave the house, Grace Van Pelt quietly comments on how difficult this case must be for Lisbon, knowing Teresa's own mother also died because of a drunk driver. But true to her professional armor, Lisbon immediately shuts the conversation down. She does not discuss her personal life at work. Without missing a beat, she orders Cho to investigate the wealthy group of friends Christine had been spending time with. Back at the beach, Patrick Jane seems to have forgotten he's a CBI consultant. He's completely absorbed in building a massive sandcastle. His method is unconventional. He digs with his own shoes until a little girl, touched by his effort, lends him a bucket. Jane thanks her with a bright smile and gets to work. What starts as a simple distraction slowly becomes an impressive architectural masterpiece, attracting a crowd of curious onlookers who burst into applause. But Jane isn't just playing, he's watching. Meanwhile, at the station, Cho has made progress. He tracks down Darlene Pappas, an old friend of Christine's who is currently in custody for possession and resisting arrest. Lisbon takes a softer approach, revealing that Christine has been murdered. Darlene, hardened by life on the streets and openly hostile, suddenly breaks for a moment. Her shock is real. In exchange for help with her charges, Darlene reveals a key piece of the puzzle. Christine had been seeing an older man she called Pops. According to Darlene, Christine wanted to end the relationship, but she didn't know if she ever managed to do it. Almost at the same time, Cho discovers that a man named Philip Handler, nicknamed Flipper, often hung around the surfer group. Flipper is no rich kid. He's a man with a criminal record, including a violent assault against a woman. The team heads to a rundown area along the coast. They stop in front of a battered trailer surrounded by junk, with loud music blasting from inside. The agents move in carefully, guns drawn, ready for a confrontation. They kick the door open and storm in shouting commands, moving tactically toward the kitchen, but then they freeze. Sitting calmly at the table, drinking a beer and playing chess with the suspect, is Patrick Jane. "Hey guys," Jane says casually. Later, back at headquarters, Jane explains how he found Flipper so quickly. He noticed that both Flipper and the victim wore the same style of woven beads in their hair, a small detail that connected them instantly. Clearly, his afternoon at the beach had not been spent simply sunbathing. Inside the interrogation room, Flipper tries to play psychological games with the agents, calling Lisbon the bad cop and Jane the nice one. When they press him about his violent past, he defends himself with twisted logic. He claims he attacked his ex-girlfriend because she poured oil down the drain, like she was murdering an entire dolphin family. When he speaks about Christine, however, his tone turns strangely gentle, insisting he would never have had any reason to hurt her. Then Jane abruptly cuts through the conversation. "So why did you kill her?" Flipper denies it furiously. He also denies ever sleeping with Christine, claiming he waits until girls are legal before giving them a very special birthday present. Lisbon's frustration grows as the suspect refuses to cooperate, until Jane quietly decides it's time for his own strategy. Meanwhile, Jack Tanner arrives at the station with his 2 young children beside him. The moment he sees Rigsby escorting Flipper through the hallway, he completely loses control. Grief explodes into blind rage, and he lunges at the suspect, forcing Lisbon to physically hold him back. After the outburst, the broken father collapses into heartbreaking sobs in front of his children, who watch him with sadness far beyond their years. Lisbon, deeply affected and reminded of her own past trauma, gently comforts him and asks him to go home and take care of the kids. But then the forensic report changes everything. The coroner confirms that Christine's body was dumped in the water on Tuesday morning. Which means the real key to the murder lies in whatever happened during the party on Monday night. Lisbon and Jane head to a construction site at Devon Point, owned by Dane Kurdick, Danny's powerful and influential father. The place is chaotic. The foreman, a man named Rayburn, complains nonstop about delays and workers who have disappeared. One of them, Eddie Garcia, hasn't been seen in days. While Lisbon questions the foreman, Jane wanders around the site with the same childlike curiosity that always defines him. Then suddenly he stops cold in front of a freshly poured slab of concrete. With eerie calmness, he points to one specific spot. A human nose is sticking out of the cement. It's Eddie Garcia's body. At that moment, Dane Kurdick arrives. He's arrogant, wealthy, and openly dismissive of the investigation. But when Jane starts pressing him with questions about Christine, Kurdick begins to crack. Then Jane deliberately pushes harder, calling him by the nickname Darlene mentioned earlier, Pops. The reaction is immediate. Kurdick loses his temper and punches Jane straight in the nose. Although the assault gets Kurdick arrested, Chief Manelli is furious with Lisbon for detaining such a well-connected man. Lisbon stands by Jane's instincts. If Kurdick had been involved with an underage girl, then he had a powerful motive to kill her. But Jane knows a man like Kurdick will never confess inside an interrogation room, so he moves on to Phase 2. Jane contacts Danny Kurdick and his friends, Wynn, Andy, and Hope, asking them to meet him at the beach, exactly where Christine was last seen alive. He tells them he needs their help catching the killer. Once they arrive, Jane reveals the truth. Christine had been having an affair with Danny's father. Hope reluctantly admits that all of them already knew. Under the glow of a bonfire, with his voice calm and hypnotic, Jane proposes an exercise, collective hypnosis. He asks them to close their eyes and return to Monday night. Slowly, Hope begins to speak. She says she can see Dane Kurdick watching them from the shadows. Danny, furious and deeply disturbed by the accusation against his father, suddenly storms away from the beach, with Hope quickly running after him. The next day, Hope arrives at the station looking shaken and exhausted. She believes the vision she saw under hypnosis was real, but Jane immediately drops a bombshell. Kurdick has a perfect alibi for that night. Then Jane's tone changes completely. He confronts Hope directly, reminding her that during the trance she described herself as a hawk while calling Christine prey. Jane reveals the truth. He never hypnotized her at all. She only pretended to be in a trance so she could frame an innocent man. Cornered at last, Hope finally breaks down and confesses inside the interrogation room. On the night of the party, a security guard named Eddie Garcia tried to throw the teenagers out. Danny got into a fight with him, and the guard died accidentally after smashing his head during the struggle. The group agreed to stay silent about it, but Christine, the good girl, couldn't live with the guilt. She wanted to confess everything. Hope accuses Danny of drowning Christine to silence her. But when Jane forces them to face each other, the final truth comes out in the cruelest possible way. Danny points directly at Hope. Consumed by jealousy and an obsessive love for Danny, she was the one who struck Christine with a shovel and killed her to protect the boy she loved. Then Jane reveals the final layer of horror. All of them are guilty. One by one, Jane accuses the 4 teenagers. Every single one of them helped cover up the crimes. They moved the bodies. They cleaned the scene. They created a blood pact, convinced that if they were all involved, none of them would ever talk. The 4 teenagers are handcuffed and taken away to prison. By the end of the case, Dane Kurdick is also arrested, this time on statutory rape charges, finally closing the circle of his abuse. Before leaving, Lisbon approaches Jack Tanner, who is shattered after learning that his daughter's own friends became her executioners. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Lisbon breaks her own rule and shares part of her past. She tells him that after her mother died, her own father also became an alcoholic. He was a good man, she says firmly, but he turned into a drunk who pitied himself. Then she hands Jack a support card and gives him one final warning. Your children need you, be good to them. From a distance, Patrick Jane watches the scene unfold in silence, knowing that for today at least, justice has finally brought order to the chaos of sand and sea. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't stop here. Check out the other Mentalist episodes on the channel and watch the full playlist in order to follow Patrick Jane's best cases from beginning to end.